Welcome to the Ballerina Girl. My name is Martha Stevenson, and today I'll be teaching you how to paint this pretty little ballerina. The first thing we'll do is the background. As we're working on background, I'd like you to consider possibly using different color schemes for the background than what I suggest. I use stipplers, angle brush, shaders, riggers, a round brush with a good point, and a 10-aught liner brush. If you have any interest in any of these specific brushes, reach out to me. Here is my pattern transferred, and I'm going to use the Lynn Andrews stippler brush. I may switch over to the folk art brush. It's very good, but I really like the Lynn Andrews, so that'll be my thing today. I'm using magenta, light blue, purple, cad yellow, white, and Naples yellow, and I'm mixing the colors into the background. As you can see, my first choice of colors really brought out a lot of green, so I wasn't happy about that. But I add a little pink, it turns a little brown, but as I'm working with it, it becomes interesting to me. So I just keep picking up colors, using circular motions, using the stippler dry brushing technique. And I am going to continue that way throughout this entire background. I've arranged the tape so you don't have to tediously watch me paint the whole background, but you will want to pause it and proceed as you're going through. I've sped it up so you can see some changes I made as I was working. The whole secret is to keep the circular motions going so that you blend all of your colors. I did decide to bring in a quinacridone red magenta. It's a very thin color, but it adds a real pretty hue to the painting, and you'll see that I like that choice, so I went wild and added it all over the place, creating a purpley effect that I really liked a lot. The bottom of this background is going to be a little darker than the top, but you'll see that I just keep going with this quinacridone red magenta. I won't give up on my other colors, but for a while I work with this new color. Anytime I want to soften a color, I add white or the Naples yellow. Naples yellow is such a pretty color. It's so close to a white, but it's got that hue of yellow that makes it special. Notice after my first try, I haven't gone a lot into the yellows because I didn't like how they blended and turned things green. Later on, I'll bring them back. The pinks and blues make purples, which clearly I was in the mood for as I worked on this. I'm doing circular motions around my figure, trying to leave all of the tiny little arms and legs as they were in the pattern. I do turn my canvas upside down. I use a turntable all the time because it makes it easier to flip it upside down as I'm working and spin it around so that I get to what parts I want without having to turn my body a lot. I'm going up into the edges of the skirt and the hair a bit because I will fix that as I'm applying the base colors for them. And you could spend an entire day just doing your background. Don't forget to go under the arms. You'll see later on I forgot to go between the feet, but I'll grab that later. You can grab it now if you think of it. And you can just keep going and going and going. I did decide I want to glow behind the ballerina as if light is cast. So I'm going to start with Naples yellow and add that. Then I'm going to bring in the cad yellow to make it a real pretty yellow-orange hue. Mixing with the magenta is going to keep it an orangey tone rather than a bright yellow. Because the paint is dry, I can add it down at the bottom without too much fear of ending up with yucky colors. Though I'm going carefully because I didn't want green. Went over things with pink again to take them more peachy. If you take the magenta and the cad yellow and mix them, you will end up with a pretty peach. And I worked with that. I did decide to paint the sides, although normally I do black sides. This is a delicate little painting, so I kept the colors going on the side. I went a little brighter than my original, knowing that I can go over it with many colors and work with it. So I want to make some skin color, and I'm going to mix Titan Buff, yellow ochre, magenta, and white until I get to the color that I like. If you have skin tone colors that you already like, go ahead and pull them out. You'll see I spend quite a bit of time mixing my colors as I go, but I also, in reality, take a small plastic bottle I bought from Amazon and fill it with my skin tone color so that I don't have to go through this exercise every single time. The truth is, every item I paint, I want slightly different colors for the skin, so I still end up dipping in different paint colors with my pre-mixed flesh. So here you can see I'm working with the flesh colors, dipping and dabbing until I get it to the color I like. That was not quite the color I wanted. I added a little white to the mix. I just keep working with them. See, there's the pre-mixed one that I made. And it really does work most of the time as long as I'm willing to mix in some other colors once I've put it out on my palette. I'm trying to keep the arms even a little skinnier than what the girl was in the pattern. I thought I'd do kind of a younger girl who's very delicate this time. And because I'm going so lightly and I'm using my shader brush to apply, it actually takes a while to cover everything. So I'm painting over and over and over again the skin areas until I feel like I've properly covered them. This is when I discovered that I forgot to paint the background between the 2 feet, so I start pulling in my background colors and getting that put in. And you'll see I go back to that many times until I'm happy with the colors. I also will go back to all of the skin areas many times, working with it until I get to the color I like. Now I'm going to base coat the hair with, I chose burnt sienna because I want a blonde, and I think the warm tones will look nice under the blonde colors. So you just base coat it, and I'm using the shaders still. This shader ends up being a great tool to use on a regular basis. I got it from Brush Guys. They don't have a lot of low Cornell brushes out there on the market, but Brush Guys still has some. They are sold for $1.25 each plus shipping. So I have them available for $2 each where you don't have to pay for the shipping, so that's nice. If any of you want some, I bought a lot of them because they do wear out quickly. But as you can see, I have lots of control with them. Now we're going to put in our magenta for the tutu top and the leggings. You'll see that I paint parts of the tutu that end up being a different color. They're going to be more white, but I still go ahead and work with it. And although I don't get straight lines every time, I will get it straightened out as I'm working along. I'm very happy doing small brushes and short strokes so that I have the most control. Later on you'll see that I changed the top so that it has a different angle at the base. I'm going to paint both legs the same color, but later on we'll go back in and get some shading done. Again, keep in mind that I'm trying to make this a very young girl, so tiny little legs as well. I just go slowly and I apply multiple coats of color. I try to leave a little gap between the legs so I don't lose my place later on. Some of the gap is really just how I'm doing the paint. I leave enough so that I can see it. Try putting on the shoes. I had a really hard time with the shoes. You'll see that I changed them a little bit toward the end, but I didn't really plan out the shoe in the front. And I tried to tuck it behind the down pointing shoe, but I ended up putting the other one in front later on. Excuse me. This is a real pretty color that I get from Golden. It's gray and it's N8, which is the intensity of white to black. This is the lightest of the colors that they produce. And I use it. It's almost like a stained white, as you can see. But it does produce a pretty little color for the skirt. I'm going to very first base coat the little tutu with my N8. If you don't have this color, you could use any light color that you think would be pretty at the base of the tutu. You'll see that I'm going to add more colors later on. Now I'm just using a round brush and covering it completely. Going over it a few times to make sure that I properly cover the white. I took classes from Nancy Medina a long time ago who said paint like a rich girl, meaning don't spend a ton of money on your brushes, but spend money on your paint and apply them strongly. So here I start making the straps a lighter color, and I'm going to do some accents on the tutu top using the gray. Later on I'll go in with some white, but this is a good start. It's always a good base to put this down, then your white, if you want something to really pop with white. I am starting to put in the straps. You'll see that I go over and over and over with the straps and the feet and the shoes. I don't mind how they look right now, but as time goes by I'm not going to like them, so I'll keep working with them. The arms and the feet need several coats. I really kept seeing the canvas as it dried, so I kept going back and adding more and more paint to them. And I'm putting in the area that's going to have the lacing. So now I'm going to pull out some blues and magentas and different colors that we already have in our background, and I'm going to slap them onto the tutu. Even though we're going to use the colors to make lace, this is going to just have a hint of these colors shining through. And I think they're pretty. It's up to you. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to. I thought it was pretty. I did blue. Now I'm doing the brilliant purple. I'll do the medium magenta and a little bit of yellow. And I'm just slapping it on using the round brush. Keep in mind that I'm going to be going over top with my impression of lace. I'm not trying to be neat and tidy. Then I worked on the hair a little more, so I added colors that I thought would make it look blonde. Believe it or not, I started with cad yellow mixed with a little bit of the Naples yellow, which is very bright. You'll look at this and go, oh my goodness, that's blonde. But I work and work on it so until I get it to the colors that I like. So basically I went very dark, then very bright, and then I toned it. Many of you are painting this for your granddaughters, and so you'll want to get their own hair colors. And just play with your colors until you're happy with how they look. Notice I'm starting at the base of the hair and going up to the bun. And then with the bun I'm doing circular motions like a spiral. Here I'm applying yellow ochre, which brings in a little of the brown, softening that cad yellow a little bit. Now I'm using some Naples yellow to lighten it up a little. And very little paint on the brush. I don't want any glops of paint to go into the hair. I want it very thin strands, very natural looking. Here I'm going even lighter with the Naples yellow, as if the light is shining on the hair. Remember, we set up a glow behind her. So now I'm bringing back in the burnt sienna. Kind of help me with some shadows. And the curve of the bun. Mixing a little of the other colors with this. Keeping in mind my goal is to soften. Never be afraid to use your fingers to correct things or to smudge things. I'm getting in some nice good shadows. You'll see I go back and do the shadows several times until I'm happy with the intensity of them. I tap with my fingers to smudge them out a bit. Then I add some real light lines, which I liked. That's her highlights. I'm starting to do the shadows on the arms and the back and the hands using burnt sienna. Now I'm getting bolder. Where there's light, there's dark. Where there's dark, there's light. As long as you carry that philosophy, you'll get your values into your paintings and you will increase the interest level with them. Here's where I decide to change the tutu top so that it has a different waistline. I thought that was kind of fun. And I decided to use the Naples yellow and my shader to put some little dots in the background. I added some cad yellow to them. I want this to be kind of a magical moment for my little ballerina. So later on we'll add glitter and all sorts of fun things, but just really starting the magical background for her. Now we're going to start doing the lace, and you can use whatever you're comfortable with that helps you to do squiggly lines. I like the shader, I like the liners, and I like the riggers. They're all good. You'll see I start with the shader, and I'm just doing squiggly lines. I'm using the Naples yellow at first. While we were doing this, it reminded Jerry and I of painted bearded irises back in the day at a class that we had attended. Very squiggly and fun. So this goes on for a while. I backed some of it out, but you'll get to see a lot of it in here. As you can see, it's not symmetrical, it's just kind of fun and all over the place. Lots and lots of squiggles. And I play a lot with the bottom of the tutu, giving you the effect of lots and lots of fullness in that skirt. I don't know if you're in a twitchy mood, paint a tutu. Now I switch to a liner. Does a nice job. Added some white because now that we have all that Naples yellow, the white is going to pop more than had we just gone straight in with it. And you will see I spent a lot of time on the tutu. About as much time on the tutu as you spent on the background. They're very definitely focal points. Here I zoomed in so you could see the squiggles. Lots and lots of squiggles. And it's fun that we put the other colors on the skirt before adding the lace. I think it's fun that the colors pop through. Seems like every time you think you're done, you do more. Now it's time to start adding some accent colors, and I used quinacridone violet on the legs. Really decided to focus with that to get the back leg shaded out. Which really makes a nice difference. But I'm going to spend quite a bit of time bringing forward the front leg, and here you can see I use the side of the round brush as if I'm doing angle brush. So I'm still floating, but I'm floating with the flat and the point of the round brush. I'm going to go through and get some accents on the bottom of the skirt. I decided purple would be kind of fun, as if that's the slip underneath the tutu showing through. So I went ahead and did some purple in there, or violet. Keeping in mind, you don't have to use my colors. You can use whatever colors you're in the mood for. In classes I teach, I strongly urge people to pick their own colors because I think it's so good for you to cultivate your eye to see all the colors that are in a painting and work with them. It's fun to match them up. You'll see that I just keep going over accents again and again and again till they are like I like them. Here I'm trying to put some shadows on, and I realized I need more paint. So then I went in heavier, and I started liking it much more. So if you put something on and it's dark and you immediately scrub it out, you can pretty much get rid of it quickly. But here I like the dark, so I kept going with my burnt sienna. And you'll see I lighten it up a little by painting over top, but I really like getting those shadows in there. I thought that made it look better. Started making her look more dimensional. And I'm making skin again so I can emphasize the parts that needed to show the shadows. Still playing with those shoes. Now at this point I start redoing the skin, and I'm kind of sloppy about it, which means I'm going to have to redo the background around that. But I don't mind. I know my colors that I'd picked. They're all still out. I get that cleaned up. Add a little pink hue over top of all the yellow dots to again keep it magical looking. I'm using the dry stippler brush again. I'm trying to keep my yellow glow, but also turn those yellow dots more into orangey, peachy colors. Bring that yellow back in. I really wanted the glow. If I got a little carried away, I used a little pink to back it off a little. And I'm putting some pink and just gentle highlights over top of the lace. Just kind of softening it a little. Notice I'm not changing the color of the lace, I'm just adding highlights to it all. Blending, softening. Now I'm using a dotter like you use for the nail salon. You buy them at the nail salon. And this is just a small dotter, just putting some sparkles in the sky, just with white paint. I'm still going to play with that hair a little bit. I decided to do some white flicks in the underside of the tutu to make it look layered. Still working on those feet and straps. Now I take my accents on the tutu top and I turn them white. And I put the little X's in the back so her top can be laced up. At this point I switch to a 10-aught liner. Very tiny little brush. Does a nice job with tiny little lines. I had been using a rigger, which was quite nice, but this is a lot of control for those little lines. And now I go wild. I get all the straps and everything done with white. So easy when you've got a lot of control with your brush. Sorry about my hand being in front of it. And as your paint dries, it loses the intensity, so it requires more coats. You make that decision with your painting as it's drying and you're watching it. At this point, I decide to take that foot and put it in front of the other foot. Basically, I wasn't happy with the feet, so I just kept working on them. That's an angle brush, and now I'm going to start doing some floating. Oh, definitely in the hair. I get one side done, then I flip her around and do the other side. I'm liking that. Just makes such a nice difference. I get the shadows back in. Really handy to have a turntable that can flip around. I'm going to cast a shadow on the legs from the tutu. I use a little more of that purple to intensify the back leg, keeping in mind it dried, lightened, so I'm making it more intense. Then I also take advantage of the wonderful lines you can draw with the angle brush, and I go over the legs again. Just paint on the tip so that I get nice clean lines and some highlights in the foreleg. Notice I'm adding white to the mix. There we go. That foot's in front. I know it's kind of crazy, but if I have paint out, even if it's just a little dip, I don't add more paint until I really need it. I don't think it's frugality. I just feel like use it. It's good paint. Use it up. But if your paint gets dry, definitely put out fresh. I keep working on that underside of the tutu because I feel like the more you can picture many layers, then it will be better for you. I went ahead all the way around with that white fluff. In retrospect, I feel like the legs should have gone in front of the white fluff. But it's done, and it's actually moved on to somebody else who had it for their grandchild. But if you're doing this, go ahead and bring the legs in front of the fluff to give it the dimensional look. Now we're going to start playing with all sorts of sparkly things. So here's a list of all of the different things that we are going to play around with, just to give you an idea. I don't have the hologram on here, but it is just an acrylic shiny clear paint that you can put like over the background and make it shine a little bit. These are Recollections paints. I get them at Michael's. I apply them with gloss medium that I put in a needle nose bottle that allows me to squeeze thin lines of paint out, thin dots. So here I'm just kind of putting some more squiggles. And then I'm going to sprinkle glitter, just white glitter over top, and shake it off. There's the white glitter. This stuff is stuff that you can actually mix with paint. They buy it for walls and stuff, and there I'm shaking it off over my palette. And you can see it's just all over the place. I brushed off the background a little bit. Now I'm doing dots using that needle applicator. And I'm going to pick one of the Recollections glitters. They're chunky glitter. Because of my pinks and purples, I'm going to pick a pink and purple. This is a wax pencil made out of beeswax. And that is just a glitter holder that makes it a little neater. I dump some in. Because it's got the little dispenser at the top, that makes it easy to get it back in the jar. But I pick it up with the wax pencil and plop it on a glue dot. This gel media dries clear, so anything you have that can dry clear works fine. Any kind of glue. I like the gel media because I'm guaranteed that it's going to dry clear. Sometimes you pick up a couple of them, and so you put one and then go put the other. Sometimes they don't stick. You work on them a little bit. But pretty much there I'm experimenting just to pick it back up again. I think it dropped. Well, you just go through and pick up, place, pick up, place. I sped it up a little so you didn't have to watch the whole thing. It really makes it sparkly and fun. And then here I'm putting some of the gel media in the hair. I put a nice big glop of it, and then I stick a bunch of these flowers right in the hair. So instead of a bow in her hair, she's just got several flowers, like a nice little bouquet in her hair. And the instructions have you do the bow, but I hadn't done the bow, so we'll get to that at the very end. I use the Ranger liquid pearls. These are glitters, a mix of glitters that I found on Amazon. Big bag of them comes. They're very inexpensive. And they have stars and hearts and circles and all sorts of shapes. So sometimes what I do is, see, I dump the other ones back in the bottle, and then sometimes I start by just picking one up at a time, but then as I get glue on my pencil, I can actually pick multiples up at once, and I kind of get busy and just kind of sprinkle out a whole bunch of them as time goes by. So you'll see me kind of get a little abundant with them because I like the sparkles. But I still don't just dump them like we did the glitter. I still place. And where there were big glue dots, I actually added extra pieces of glitter. This is the wax pencil. Just sparkles and pretty. Then I bought this Mixing Effects medium. It's pearlescent. You can mix it with a pink color, and instead of buying a pearlescent color, you just actually mix with the medium, and you can use all your existing colors that way, and it pearlizes them. Here I added some accents of pearlized on the tutu top and on the leggings. Just enough to give it a little shine. It's fun. This is Ranger Liquid Pearls. It is a dimensional pearlescent and expensive, but it is dimensional, so it will produce a raised up line. And because it dispenses out of its little bottle, it's got the needle top. They do clog, but you have to use a needle to get them cleaned out. But they really are pretty. So I'm adding some ribbon to her hair. And I take and draw just a tiny little bow there with another Ranger Liquid Pearls color. This one was clogged, so it was kind of hard to work with. But I got just a little bow in there. And that's the final product. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for painting with me.